Yeah, something about doing the dishes, mate. I don't know where it is. Just stood there on the, in my kitchen, just fucking,
Powerful as fuck.
just hunched over like this, hunched over my sink, flailing the lads.
It's like that, is it? It's like tight.
It's like tight. I'm just over the dishes, just like feeling vascular, honestly, you look like you put on a little bit of muscle. I'm not just
I've
saying
put
it.
fucking loads.
Honestly, I thought when you came in,
What do you mean I look like I put on muscle?
I don't know, your traps.
My traps, is it? Yeah.
Traps are coming in.
It's all the I don't know what I'm doing. I'm probably eating
It's the
a bit more
squats.
protein. It's the squats, yeah.
It is
Because all
the
of a sudden
squats.
I'm getting frigging veins in my torso and I'm not even dieting. So
No, honestly, in all seriousness, I did think that.
is it
I think you've put a bit more, because you have been up in your squat, haven't you? I did
my
notice.
squat? Yeah, my squat. I squat once a week. I literally only
I
train.
love the way we start with this always. Jim's a squat. Like,
It always
wait,
always comes back to squat, doesn't it? Your 200 kilo squat, me aimlessly trying to get 200 kilos so life just, like I said, falls in
Yeah,
my
it's
lap.
going to
doesn't it?
become better, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you get to it. What were you squatting the other day?
The other day's 87.5.
Yeah,
So,
and the sets of 5, wasn't it? Was
No,
sets of five?
sets of, it's between 3 and 5.
Yeah.
But I typically get to 4 and then I bump the weight up again.
We need to do a YouTube video soon.
Oh, what?
You do my training, I do your training.
Yeah, okay, we'll do
I'll
that.
do that.
We'll do that, but like,
A day of eating. You've got to do a day of eating. In Portugal,
yeah.
I'll do a day of eating, and you got to eat everything that I eat in a day.
And when you're saying to this, are you just subconsciously contracting your pecs up and down?
Yeah,
Or is
yeah.
that...
It's just like one at a time, You got to eat what I eat in a day as I'm just flexing
Yeah,
my
but-
pecs.
That's not going to work, is it? Because
Why?
I'm pescatarian.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I can go pesky for a day.
All right, yeah. If
I
you
can
want to
go
do that, then.
pesky
Yeah.
for a day. Yeah.
All right,
I'll
so
get
I'll
some
try your
salmon
day
in
of
there.
eating, and then you do my day of eating.
I'm going to be starving. I'll be starving on yours.
You what? You?
I think I consume more calories than you daily. Do you reckon?
I reckon you probably maybe do about an extra 300 than me.
Yeah,
on
probably.
the typical
Because
day.
you purr away.
Yeah,
you purr away.
I don't track, but I would say I estimate. It depends on how much I eat in the evening, but I probably get around 2,000.
Do you reckon?
7?
2.7?
Yeah, I would think probably
Yeah.
on more active or intense days.
You have a pretty hefty dessert as well, though, don't you?
That's the thing, yeah.
Yeah,
So
what-
I will typically have, typically right before bed, I'll consume 40 grams of protein. Not because I'm not because I'm like actually trying to get 40 grams of protein, but I will.
But that's in your dinner, though, isn't it?
No. That's in my snack
Oh,
before bed.
right, I see. Right,
I'll typically have a protein pudding or a bowl of like yogurt with honey, berries, crumbled up meringue nests in there or something, and then a protein bar with it.
No,
So-
I've been doing recently, that's good, which you might like. So just like full fat Greek yogurt. I got the one from M&S, 10%.
oh, really? Oh, yeah. I bet that tastes
Whack that into a
great.
bowl, right?
Yeah.
Chocolate, fudge brownie protein powder. 1 scoop of that in, mix it up.
Yeah.
Blueberries and honey on top.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds really good though. Because like 10%, the fat one, yeah. What we've got in there, that's probably about 20 grams of fat, is it, in that bowl then?
Probably about 20 grams of fat.
tastes great,
Yeah,
yeah.
it tastes amazing. It's so good. But I'm not on the creme cookie diet at the moment. That's
Yeah.
my thing.
I wonder how many calories are in those.
I was thinking about this the other day.
It's got to be
I-
like 450 or something.
I think maybe 500.
Yeah.
I think. I wouldn't say 600.
Oh, no, it's not going to be 600.
No,
'cause you
I think
like,
about 5.
Yeah, like a typical cookie's about 3, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
But they are, when I bit into that thing last week, I was like, oh, let's see if these are as good then as he hyped them. And I was like, this is freaking outrageously
They're
good.
warm. Because that's the thing, you had them frozen the first time.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
No,
But did you have it warm as well?
it wasn't warm because I bought them quite early in the morning and then I ate it when I got back at the end of the day from London. But yeah, it was just deadly good.
When I just hunker down over them. Like, there's no point you trying to come over and trying to look at my cookie from Creme. I'm hunkering down. I'm over the table like a fucking silverback, just going to town. You just see this from behind, just like going to town on them. That white chocolate macadamia, though. Oh boy, that was so good.
Unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, that was so good. I had a really good one from the chocolate and the one I didn't get you. Remember, I accidentally got you the wrong
walnut or
one.
something, was
Chocolate and chestnut or something,
yeah,
roasted
yeah.
chestnut. Oh mate, insane. That was so good. But yeah, you watching? I know it's off topic. United tonight. You're
I
gonna
will
watch
do,
the
yeah.
second
I
leg.
was just actually talking to my friend earlier. I was like, football, I've just not been bothered in lately.
Mate, I've gone off them now.
Because it's just like the league is done with. Liverpool have won that. United are just shit to watch. I will watch it, but yeah. It's just there's nothing exciting in that team to watch.
I ended my sports subscription with Now TV.
Yeah.
Because they were charging me so like 35 quid a month.
Yeah.
And United were hardly playing on there. Like honestly, like on Sky Sports, maybe like you know, every other week they'd be playing on there, you know, or something like that. And I thought, I'm not gonna do this. And also they're playing rubbish at the moment too. So I ended in, I'll just watch like the games like tonight and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Off Virgin. But yeah, mate, it's crazy. That is the worst performing team pound for pound in the world, probably. You know, right now.
When you look at the cost of the squad on the 11, yeah.
But anyway, enough United talk. We can depress us before we start. So you want to talk about athletes then, right? You're like, what are we gonna? What's the topic of this one gonna be?
I don't know. Like there are a lot of things. You see a lot of content now. Discussing like whether the gym, training in the gym. So it's almost like, is that a help or a hindrance to an athlete? On someone, not even necessarily. Yeah, you could look at it on two ways. I guess a professional athlete, and then you could look at someone who is more of a developing athlete, someone who just plays. Let's say they play locally and they're trying to perform at their best.
Right. Yeah.
Is the gym going to be a help to them, or are they better off spending their time training in other ways? And then likewise with let's say a high-end professional athlete, is the gym important to them, or are they better off putting their training resources into other areas?
You've been sending me some posts, haven't you? Let's not lie to the
content,
people.
Yeah,
you've been sending me some content, trying to trigger me every day.
I did literally. No, I am honestly genuinely interested in your thoughts on it.
Yeah. I know what you're up to.
No, because you put up that post the other week, didn't you, about the Welsh? Was it the Welsh rugby side?
Yeah.
And but in your opinion, that they should be trying to get more powerful and stronger to produce more force, shouldn't they? So
yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is controversial or not. I really couldn't care at this point. I just think that the way generally like athletes train today, and look, this is speculation for the most part, right? Like, and I did that post about the Welsh rugby team because honestly, mate, I talk so much these days. My voice just goes. Like, literally, I'm constantly talking all day. Yeah. Like, I literally am a professional talker at this point.
Amongst the 20 voice notes you send me a day.
Yeah, that's it, minimum 20.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that post because it's literally like, you look at all the physical stats which I pulled up, right, and I got them off the Six Nations website, so like collisions and like amount of tackles, like dominant tackles and stuff like this. And Wales have been like last but one for the last 5 or 6 years or something like that, in all of the physical stats pretty much. Scrum win percentage, stuff like that, And so, yeah, those are my thoughts. And again, part of it is speculation, obviously, because I'm not inside the camp. I don't know for sure everything that those guys are doing. But do you know what? I've seen enough. I've seen enough video content, and I've seen, some of the highlights that they put up. And it's not just Wales. Do you know what I mean? It's all the teams.
Yeah.
It's all the teams do train like this. And, I don't know, people think I'm being a bit harsh or whatever, but I'm just being honest. That's my view. Like, the one difference is, though, is that maybe we don't have the same genetically gifted players that, say, a South Africa do, right?
Yeah, or New Zealand or something.
Or New Zealand, or, or Ireland, or wherever it might be. Like, our pool of players, just, we're not naturally, like, big, hulking beasts, right? Like it's not the case at the moment. So we haven't got a lot. Like the things that you can do inside the gym are tangible. Like you can improve that. Like and you can measure that improvement. Sorry, it's frustrating for me. Like just sat at home, like watching, people getting dominated on the pitch.
Yeah.
And I know that there is, to a degree, something that you can do about that, and it's not that these guys are weak. They're not. But certainly they can improve, put it that way, It says a lot when, I'm, 5'8", 93 kilograms, and I'm squatting to depth 240 kilograms.
Yeah.
He's a professional athlete.
Yeah.
Doing quarter squats with 200 kilograms. These are forwards, 105, 110 kilogram body weight. That's not impressive.
Yeah, so his force production relative to yourself is like way down, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
And what I'm saying is that, you should be looking at like bigger numbers than that. And these quarter squats you see in the gym, and it just like, it blows my mind that this is acceptable, in a professional setting, But I don't know, maybe I came across like an angry Welsh supporter, but I actually have got a little bit of a valuable insight to give on
100%.
this,
Yeah.
But yeah, coming back to the post you're sending me, mate, you're trying to trigger me every morning. I'm giving you the finger on this. You're trying to trigger me every morning. Yeah, I'm just there relaxed, sun on my face, coffee on, and then life is good. And then in my DM, I just see Jim's MC Fitness has dropped you a message, sent a message.
Yeah.
Click on there, and it's just posts ready to trigger me and rile me up for the day, But what do you think anyway? Because you sent me a lot, right? And what sort of stuff are you seeing at the moment on social media that maybe is like riling you up?
It's not really riling me up, but I'm just currently trying to improve my knowledge around like speed training.
Yeah.
Because that's an area I'd like to improve my coaching side with. So I follow tons of people around that, and then obviously around like sports performance in general. I follow a lot of accounts around like football in particular. And there are just people who will say you're literally going to ruin someone's movement ability and take away from their performance on their pitch and their ability to perform well on the pitch and move fluidly by spending time in the gym, which
well, we were talking about that earlier.
There's one big account, a football-based account that does it all the time, and honestly the guy is a clown. He talks about like fascia training instead of like
fascia training. What? Yeah. Explain to me what this is.
I don't really honestly know, but it's like
fascia training.
Yeah, and he'll talk about how
because strength training doesn't train your fascia.
Yeah, and they're fascia-driven athletes rather than this and all of that.
Oh, right.
And it's just like and I think it's more so in football. I don't know. You may get it in other sports, but in football, you'll be like, people will actually believe this and think that getting in the squat rack and driving up their squat is going to make them less effective on the pitch. That that's going to stop them moving, and they're going to be almost sagittal plane only. They won't be able to be a multi-directional athlete because they're just spending all their time like that. And because and also the other one I came across the other day was someone saying that because when you're doing a squat, the force production is slower, because obviously it is, isn't it? You're sticking a heavy bar on your back. It's obviously going to be slower compared to like when you're sprinting or performing a plyo. But you're training your ability to produce maximal force, which is different to producing force quickly. But that doesn't mean it's going to slow you down.
Oh, it's honestly, it's like almost on the same, maybe not quite as bad, but the logic of flat Earth. Do you know what I mean? It's just like mind blowing to me that people still think this way.
And again, obviously, you can argue you can go into the ins and outs of like, if someone is a football player or whatever, and they're going on the gym, they're doing 5 sessions a week in the gym, then that's going to be overkill.
Yeah,
because it's going to overtax their recovery. They're probably doing too much volume, which is going to impact their performance maybe in games and in training sessions. But if you get the dosage right, It's only going to help you.
Well,
And
yeah.
there's another guy I follow, Ben the Bounce, and he's super knowledgeable on like speed training, like I think Olympic gold medalist or something in bobsleigh, and he put up a post, I want to say maybe yesterday or the day before, and like discussing things about speed training, and he said that like you shouldn't sleep or neglect strength training because you're also protecting your connective tissue with that. So no, that's where you know, obviously you can get injured if you just go and you're just sprinting all the time and you're just doing those things. You're more likely to open yourself up to overuse injuries. So by getting stronger and strengthening your connective tissue, you're kind of protecting yourself more so against that.
What's his name? Ben the Bounce?
Yeah.
I'm new to him before.
Ben Simons.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm new to him.
Super impressive guy, like as an athlete. And that's what I find as well, because he's knowledgeable, but also he practices what he preaches.
Right,
Like it's like how well he jumps and how explosive and athletic he is.
Mate, it is wild though that like, because I hear these things like, you know, people talking about what was the one that you sent me? Oh yeah, something along the lines of basically if you're not, these athletes aren't training to be like weightlifters or like the best in the weight room, but they try and they want to be the best in their sport. And so all that matters basically is like the skill work component of it. And the way that they phrase these things is so black and white. It doesn't cover the whole topic, if that makes sense. Like, so nobody's saying that, you know, we're not, like, there's a difference between a powerlifter, of course, or strength athlete, and someone who's like a football player or an American football player or a rugby player, right? Of course, there's a difference there. And that difference is that for an athlete, like a team sport athlete or, you know, a more conventional type athlete, their specific SPP work is their sport, right? That's what they do. Whereas for a strength athlete, our specific work is actually lifting weights.
Yeah.
And so I think where the disconnect probably comes in is that these coaches think that somehow because you lift weights, you're taken away from their ability to perform in their sport. But that's not how it works, right? Like nobody's saying that, you know, you shouldn't prioritize your sport, or, you know, nobody's saying that you shouldn't focus on the skill element or any of these other aspects. What we're saying is that it's a really useful tool. And if you've got a real good organized annual plan, then it's going to consider all of those elements anyway.
Yeah.
So a poorly organized yearly plan of training is going to detract from, you know, if you're doing way too much work in the weight room in season, or if you're pushing way too hard in maximal strength at the wrong times, of course you're going to be really fatigued in your sport. Of course you are. But that's not the fault of like maximal strength development.
That's the setup,
It's the setup of the plan for the year, right? Like, so it's just a complete like misunderstanding of, it's like lifting weights for barbell strength training. Its role for an athlete is completely like applied in the wrong way, because these coaches then will think, oh, you know, that's going to detract from what we do on the pitch. And so they don't go anywhere near lifting weights, and they're just out there just doing all this garbage, like work with cones and all this sort of stuff, which it's really hard to measure. You can't actually, you don't know if like, it's hard to define if you're making progress with it or not, right? Whereas barbell strength training is old school, but you can measure the progress then. It's about knowing when to push and when to hold back.
Yeah.
I don't know, does that make sense?
Yeah,
at
it
all,
does. Yeah,
you
definitely.
know? And so, yeah, you'll see this stuff online all the time, you know, and people like, and then obviously that rubs off then on people who are coming into sports, right? Like, 13, 14-year-old kids
and parents as well.
Parents, yeah. They see these posts, and they think, my kid, they can't be doing this, or they can't go out near the weight room. But you're missing out on so much if you're not going near the weight room, And I can tell you that firsthand, because like I've been someone that has squatted 100 kilograms or 120 kilo, or whatever it might be, and now squatting 245 kilograms or whatever. I'm telling you, mate, if I went back playing rugby, I'd be a different player, completely different player. I got 20 kilograms more mass on me, way stronger, probably just as fast, more powerful. Has it stopped me from being able to move my body and do stuff? No, absolutely not. It's funny. Like, I was on the bag. When was it? Probably a couple of months ago or whatever. And I think people got this assumption that I'm just going to be like stiff and can't move because I squat like.
Because you're benching and you're deadlifting and squatting and
No, like I can throw high kicks, all sorts of stuff. I've got no problem with that. But people have this idea baked into their head, you know? But, I mean, it is crazy, isn't it? And pro athletes as well, for that matter, think in this way. But any other points that they bring up that you can think of?
I don't know, but the point on it is, like, look at, for example, like NFL players. NFL players are probably, I would have said, like, the peak of explosive power, like, and agile as hell. And like those guys are like, they have hideous strength numbers.
Right.
So like Saquon Barkley,
right.
The guy, you'd have seen the clip of him. I think he got MVP. I remember seeing a post and someone was like, "Oh, how do you coach someone to do this?" It's like, you don't. You can get them running routes and through cones and all sorts of stuff all day long. Like, that's just his software and his reactive ability to do things like that. You can't recreate that on a pitch. You just can't.
Do you want to know why? He's born that way.
Exactly. So how can you improve him? In my opinion, obviously, still have him doing his skill work, his like athletic performance stuff in terms of like sprinting, jumping, but also he's obviously got the hardware that he's built up, so he's got that force and he can do those things. Which is obviously coming as a byproduct of him being hideously strong. So
that's the dirty secret, mate, of this whole thing, right? And this whole like industry. They're more than happy to take credit when they're doing really, really well. It's my training methods. We got him hopping in and out of cones and all this crap that does hardly anything for him. But when he gets hurt, they don't want to be near him, or not him specifically, but their athlete. Oh, that wasn't me, And all of a sudden, then they try and distance themselves. That's not, these guys that you watch on TV, they're born that way.
Exactly,
They're that way from day one, of course, there's stuff that you can do, like, to help. But they're going to be that person with or without you. Now, the reason that you sign that contract to help them is because they want you to help them with the extra 4%. That's it. That's all you're there for.
And to keep them, basically, if your training can keep them healthy and on the pitch, you're frigging doing a great job.
And there's only and the problem with that is, how do you measure that, right? Because it's like, someone's like pulling up with hamstring stuff, like it's hard to, it's a very grey thing, isn't it? It's like, if someone, were they always going to pull their hamstring? Did they have an underlying issue there? Or there's certain things that you can look at, though, and say, do you know what? My injury rates are really good generally, and for the sport and the nature of the sport. And also, I got my athletes really freaking strong. Those are the two things that I'm looking at. Injury rates and how strong did you get this person? And that's why you're there. You're not there to be a babysitter. I had a conversation with someone the other week about this, right straight up. I was like, mate, why are you there? You're there to get a performance. You're there. Like, if you want to just keep them safe, well, just don't go in the weight room altogether. Just I tell you what, if there's no point in you being here,
just stay on the pitch and just do
stay on the sidelines. Just watch them from a stance. You're not needed yet. At some point, you've got to take a little bit of a risk in the weight room, and you've got to be willing to train your athletes and do stuff that's actually going to be productive for them. These freaks that are able to, squat 250 kilograms without, actually putting in a lot of work to get there. Maybe straight away, for instance. So like, what's his name? Saquon Barkley, is it?
Yeah.
Do you really think that your cone drills that you're doing with him is going to be enough of a stress to actually impact him in a meaningful way?
So I mean, you're better off just getting his body healthy and then driving up his performance. Like giving him the hardware and everything he can, and then let him go on the pitch and do the freak stuff that he does. Not try and recreate it on the field with cones, because you're not going to.
That's the other thing. Sport specific positions. I don't know if you've seen this. It's like, trying to mimic the specific positions that they'll be on the pitch in the gym. And trying to replicate that. It's like,
one of the guys, he trained Ronaldo. He probably goes under the radar a bit because he doesn't shout about it, but he was S&C coach at United for a while. Mick Clegg, his name is. He basically took Ronaldo when he was like 17, 18 at United. And I know I'm a Ronaldo fanboy, but like he developed him into like the beast he became, where he was bullying centre backs because he. And I remember reading an article on it. Like he had him like he didn't get to a 200 kilo squat or anything like that, but he drove his squat up and his power clean. I think they were two of the main movements to get him stronger, more powerful. And all of a sudden, he was super explosive, jumping way above everyone, and like I said, bullying defenders. And he did that by training him in the gym to give him that raw power and force.
What's his name?
Mick Clegg. And another
right.
big thing he said was that when he talks about speed coaching, like people just think like speed coaching is done on the pitch, but he said like speed starts in your brain, so how quick you can react. And that's the thing is like in my opinion, you can't recreate like I guess make the athlete better, improve what they can do in terms of their force and their body size if needed, and then let them play the sport and get better at dealing with the chaotic situations rather than trying to create something on the pitch, because like cones aren't dynamic, they don't move. So you can set up the most complicated zigzag thing and have your athlete run and it looks impressive, but put them on the pitch when defenders can move and your brain has to respond quicker, and that's down to how well you can actually perform that task when needed.
Right, for sure. And that comes into the whole plan, right? Like, when are you going to prioritize the practice of your sport? It's going to be for the most of the year. So then it's a case of, right, what's going to give us the biggest bang for our buck whilst being able to still be to perform in the sport. And the reality is, pushing your barbell strength is like an easy one. Do you know what I mean? Like, to me, it's a no-brainer. It's like, why wouldn't you do that? I can't think of a reason, like a logical reason as to why you wouldn't do that.
So what's your thoughts on this then? So I've seen that, that's another one I've seen people discuss and argue. Like someone will say, a squat is not going to help someone become, for example, faster because it's not training horizontal power, you're training vertical power. And then I saw a post the other day that discarded that, and they showed Noah Lyles squatting. I think he was box squatting, but he was squatting hideous amount of weight.
Right.
And so obviously that's training vertical force, isn't it? But that still contributes to like you've got to have that baseline of strength essentially before you start worrying about
the reason is a basic misunderstanding of human physiology. That's all there is. It's really basic. Like, they're looking at it from the wrong angle, because when you increase your barbell squat, say, right, so you take a squat from body weight to double body weight, or double body weight to triple body weight, whatever it might be, you are having a global impact on your central nervous system's ability to output force to your muscles.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Right? So it doesn't matter if you're producing that force vertically, horizontally, it's a general adaptation. And that's the point. So we want to pick the tools that best develop that general adaptation. Now, it happens to be that the squat and barbell strength training is been established for hundreds of years, well, since the barbell's been invented, to do the best job of that. And we want to pick the best tool to develop that general quality, right? So it doesn't have to look specific to the skill. And this is where coaches go wrong all of the time. They try and make it specific to what they're doing on the pitch. And they end up with a poor quality stimulus in the gym. And so it doesn't have to be, that's the point. It has to be specific to the adaptation that you're looking to acquire, not specific to the movements that you're doing on the pitch or wherever it might be. So it's a basic misunderstanding of how physiology works. You know, it's a classic example of overthinking. You know, classic example. No, I've been there. This is the thing, right? Like, I've been that coach, like thinking that way. I think, oh, does it have to be specific to? No. Like, what quality do you want to train? Use the tool that best accomplishes that job. Yeah. And that's it, you know? And like, a strength is a general adaptation, right? Strength is a general adaptation. It's not something that needs to be hyper specific to anything that you're doing, right? And like, you noticed that with your sprints, right? Like, you would squatting and driving for a period, you squatter. Yeah. And you noticed that your sprint time.
Yeah, it must be going up. And like, I couldn't nail it down to one thing. Obviously, you said it's more likely my squat. Someone else might argue it's something else. I was doing, you know, a multitude of things I'd introduced into my training. But yeah, that was a consistent thing, was that my squat strength was going up. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, maybe if you've got someone like yourself and you all of a sudden wanted to work on your speed, would adding, you know, another 5 kilos to your squat necessarily drive up your speed? Probably not, because you're at such a high force output already. But for someone like myself, probably is contributing. I would hazard this.
Yeah, for sure. The one thing I would say, like, I'm of the opinion that I always want to like, at times, again, this is in the annual plan, and you have to plan when you push this, when you don't push it, of course. I'm always going to push strength, always. You know, there's never a point where, you know, this whole conversation of strength standards and how strong is strong enough. And I think that's garbage, personally, because, like, why would you artificially limit yourself? You know, it's impossible for you to conceive of where your genetic ceiling is. Yeah. Right? So you have some absolute freaks out there, absolute freaks. And they can do things that we can't even, like, fathom. You know, like, so for me, I'm always trying to push strength, because there's bound to be, even for me, like, let's say, obviously, yeah, you are right, there's a point of diminishing returns, absolutely. But despite that, you're still going to have some sort. Stronger is always going to be better.
Yeah, the intention, you're going in there, you're not thinking, oh, well, I'll just stick to the same weight, why bother? You
Absolutely.
know, you obviously...
Yeah, you still, stronger's always going to be better. He's going to make you more resilient, all this other sort of stuff. I think where it probably comes in is that you also say, someone like myself, that, let's say I wanted to go back to rugby or something like that. Well, I'm probably alongside that going to plan concurrently, probably going to hire a speed coach or something like that to practice the skill of sprinting and getting better
Improve
at
your
sprinting.
biomechanics and stuff,
Absolutely. That's the difference, mate, with my perspective to these other sprint S&C coach gurus, right? Like, I understand there's definitely a place for that, you know, for athletes. But it's a specific adaptation, it's a skill, and it's something that should be worked on, absolutely. But they're almost separate things, and they're trained concurrently alongside one another. Yeah. Again, that's if your sport requires it, right? Like, do you need to learn how to become good at sprinting if you're, you know, a cyclist, say, or something like that? No, you don't, right? Because it's not necessary for the sport. But if you're, like, you know, rugby player, NFL player, or American football player, wherever it might be, sure, I have it at it. So if I was going to do something, I'd be driving up my numbers, even still now, and I'd be very strategic of when I do that. And I'd alongside that also be looking at probably hiring a specific sprint or coach or wherever it might be, and run them concurrently with one another alongside my practice in my sport too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's just managing it, isn't it? So you manage your recovery, so you're not obviously taking away from all the different training pools that you're working on.
Because endurance, that's baked into your sport. Like this is the thing, like people just think, oh, to be a better athlete, I'm just going to go out for runs. It's like, no, don't go out for runs. You've got a limited pool of like recovery resources there, so you can spend that time going out for more runs, which, by the way, is a really catabolic thing for muscle tissue anyway to begin with, right? And then what, you're going to double up on that with your sport, like your training for your sport and all of that. You're already doing enough.
Well, most people don't expose themselves to any speed training. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So, and if you actually drive up your maximum speed, then you increase your speed reserve, and you'll become more efficient at running at like sub-max speeds.
Right.
So, like if you're a football player, for example, a full-back or wing back, as they're using it a lot now, and you've got to make a lot of recovery runs. If you drive up your max speed, then you'll just be so much more efficient when you've got to make those recovery runs, which are maybe done at like 60% max.
Yeah,
compared
for sure.
to someone who is slower, trying to make the same run at the same velocity, they're going to be working at much higher percentage of their max, therefore, taxing their energy reserves more. So you just become more efficient,
right,
on the whole pitch.
Right, I see. Yeah, so it's also about the specific, like energy systems you'll be using in your sport and your position and all that sort of stuff too, isn't it?
And the other thing is so many people don't get exposed to max speed,
right?
Which actually, like, for like protecting your hamstrings, it almost can work like a vaccine. So if you actually just hit that max speed like once a week, which you maybe don't get exposed to in games. Again, it depends on the sport, but the position. But some people, like footballers, typically very, very short accelerations where they're maybe not getting a chance to actually open up into their peak velocity.
What's your thoughts on like people doing this if they have, because you've gone through this as well, I've gone through this, like say you tear your hamstring, what's your thoughts on doing this stuff for someone like that? Because I think hamstrings, pardon my French, they're a fucker, mate. Hamstrings. They really are. Like once it goes,
your risk of re-injuring it is just so high.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts on like exposure to that max speed stuff? Do you think it's more of a case of like just learning better skill and it's actually beneficial to keep doing them, or would you be a bit more like tentative and keep that in reserve for the sport? Like,
I would keep it. Again, it would be for me now on things I've learned working with different coaches over the past few years and from my own experience doing it, tearing it badly, would be exposing yourself like weekly to that to that top end speed, but being mindful of the overall volume you're doing.
Right.
God, I'm losing my voice like you now.
Do you want some water?
No, I'm right. Don't worry.
Sure.
And but yeah, and also then looking at your like the biomechanics are a big thing, because looking at the video, someone I've been speaking to recently, and he pinpointed exactly why I tore my hamstring that day, and encouraged me not to use the assault runner, because the amount of like the stride that you've got to make up on that thing.
Right.
And he said what I did and why I did it was what like 90% of people try and do when they're increasing their velocity is they just end up overstriding. And so then where I caught my leg was just in such a bad position that you're putting the hamstring in such a vulnerable position, and then asking it to take load, and you're just going to blow it. And that's what I did. So if you can improve your mechanics, obviously directly strengthen the tissue to a certain extent, and then manage your overall volume. Don't do too much.
Well, I think speed, it is a specific adaptation, and it's also a skill too.
Yeah,
basically.
definitely.
But it is a training adaptation that you get in. it's not just a skill, because you are. To me, that makes sense, though. And that's my whole thing. It's like something has to make sense, and this is why, like, if you, especially in social media today, and if you're an athlete listening to this, or just someone just generally wants to get stronger, wherever it might be, you've got to be a critical thinker online. You've got to look at things and think, do you know what, does this make sense logically?
Yeah.
When I break it down. And if you're looking at all these different fancy drills that they're doing, and the one question you've got to ask yourself, how are they measuring this? If you can't measure it, it is not going to be effective, because you don't know for sure if you're improving.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's
the
end of argument,
That's why I use the GPS tracker a lot when I sprint. I don't wear it every session because I'm not maxing out every session when I run sprints. But otherwise, if you've got no idea and you go, oh, I felt faster on the pitch today, or I felt faster in my sprint session. Well, were you actually faster, or were you you'd slept better, you recovered better, you're fresher going into it? Whereas if you've got the numbers there and it tells you how many meters per second you're running, and how many times you did that in the session, you hit that top velocity, then the data is there, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Anyway, should we leave that one there? Should we do a couple of questions? Right. Let's take a look at this. Where are we? I did note them all down. Right, okay. Right. Creatine then, mate. What's your thoughts?
What's that now? So
creatine, overhyped or not?
No, depends on the goals of the person, but if you play a sport like football, rugby, or like yourself, powerlifting or anything, any kind of like strength, speed-based thing where you have to repeat efforts, it's going to definitely help you.
Right, yeah.
Help with your force output and your ability to repeat force outputs as well.
I started taking the gummies. I started looking at them, yeah. I think 2 gummies is 3 grams of creatine.
Is it? Right.
Yeah, so I started nailing a couple of them after, but I think it's an easy one, isn't it? Creatine, and there's a lot of cognitive benefits.
I was just going to say it's neuroprotective, so someone who's got potential Alzheimer's, it can really help, really help with that.
Right. Okay. Let's take a look at the next one. How do you mentally deal with bad workouts? Jim's like, I don't have bad workouts.
I don't know. I'd say if I'm having a tough session, it's usually down to just mismanagement of something outside of it. So poor sleep, like lack of nutrition. So like usually not enough calories or something like that. Or under recovered from maybe if I've played football the night before or trained the day previous or sprinted or something, and then I go in the gym or something.
Do you ever feel gutted though during a workout? Have you ever felt
if I
that
just
way?
feel like if I feel weak and things aren't just going right?
If you've missed a rep when was the last time you missed a rep actually?
In terms of what exercise?
Yeah, I'm calling you out here, and
like what exercise?
Any.
Because I'm not going to push my squat to that level because I don't have safety bars on my squat rack. So I
that's the problem.
I was squatting yesterday, and I was like, oh, is this the day you're going to get stuck down there?
You're going to be like one of those people that are like, you just see them like
the ones you talk
buried down there. Yeah.
Typically, what I do when I'm like that, I'm like, all right, I'm going to video this one because I'm going to video this one, and this is just going to like drive me to not fail. And usually it works. Touch wood. Touch wood, it does. And that was the interesting thing the other week. Actually, just going a little bit off topic, but when I videoed my first set. So typically when I'm squatting, I'll do two hard sets, ramp up the weight, and then I'll do 2 hard working sets. And the first one, I was like, oh shit, I'm struggling to get up here on the 3rd rep. And then I looked back at it, and no, I think I was going to go for 4, and I managed to get 3, and I was like, yeah, I barely got that. And I looked back at it then during my rest, and I was like, actually, what are you talking about? I was like, you're moving relatively quickly. It's just how I felt.
That's why RP's garbage.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, that's exactly what, the point you've been drumming into me. And so I did the 2nd set, and I was like, well, no, you've definitely got the 4th rep. And I did it, and it was, I wouldn't say it was comfortable, but I got it without any hesitation of thinking I'm going to get buried. And that's just a prime example of just how it feels.
This is a thing that people, you know, if you want to get stronger, it is hard.
Yeah, yeah.
Like really, really hard. And I think one of the big things that people find when, you know, I start training them or wherever it might be, I think they realize, do you know what? After about 6 months, I've been operating at 20%, and I'm maybe getting 70 or 80% out to them 6 months later, because the perception of what's difficult changes in that period.
Yeah.
You know, and I've heard that before where, mate, I've done a warm up, right? So I'm squatting, or a squat's such a good example because people can relate to that. And that bar, mate, is heavy on my back. And I'm like, I've got to hit a set that's 10 kilograms heavier than this for multiple reps more, you know? But I ignore that now because I'm experienced. I know that when it comes to that top set, my mind's in a different place.
Yeah.
You know, and it's going to feel grindy. It's going to feel hard. It's going to feel... And that's the point. Like, for your body to change, things have to be difficult. Like, you have to be willing to do the difficult things. You know, and I explained it to a couple of clients this week. And I said, you know, imagine you take a group of fish, right, and you put them in a pond and you ramp up the temperature overnight by 30 degrees. What happens to the fish? They all die, right? Now, what we're doing in strength training is you take that same analogy, you take those fish, you put them in the pond, and now we're going to ramp up the temperature, but we're going to do it gradually and controlled. And in strength training, we are changing the temperature of the water. That's what we're doing. And it has to increase over time. The stress has to increase. And if the stress isn't increasing, something isn't working.
Yeah.
You know, you need to look at your training. You think, right, am I being disciplined enough with my overload? Am I pushing my boundaries enough? Am I following a logical process that forces me to create this stress? And people will obviously not do this. They'll follow RPE and they'll just go off how they feel. Yeah. And that means they're stuck at the same weight for the next year. You know, and I've talked to people that follow these programs who haven't PR'd in a year, mate. And they're like, they're novices. You know, you should be PRing every workout.
That's it. Like, but that's it for me, for my squat. Like, obviously, I'm not powerlifting and everything, so it's not my main focus. But I think it's like me giving myself an excuse. I can't squat more this week because I also sprinted there and I played football there. So in other words, now I'm just like not believing my own bullshit and just like you just put more weight on the bar. The only like question is like sometimes it's like shit. You don't want to get stuck at the bottom. Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about that, to be honest, mate. I need to get some safety.
But I don't know. You're gonna figure that out, to be honest. Like, well, what does your rack even fit safety?
Yeah, rails? It does. I just didn't buy them when I stupidly bought the rack. There's quite a lot more, but I'll just invest in them. Because,
get some safety. How much are they? I wouldn't even know how much
they're quite a lot for what they are. I think for that rack, for that black box rack, there's something like £300.
What for
the safety rails?
Seriously?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's with the shipping because obviously they're quite heavy. It's something like that. That's why I asked you whether you can just buy any generic ones. Will they fit the rack? You know?
I'd be careful about that. I think with something like safety rails that can literally like
make or break.
Yeah, make or break you. Yeah. I'd invest the most.
Just the last one. That's why with my squat, what I typically do is I'm not driving it up 2.5 like every session just because I want to, like if I hit 3, I think I hit 3 on whatever, and then I will then usually repeat the same weight just to get a bit more comfortable at it, and then I'll put the weight up just because this is a bit safer.
You need to get some safeties. That will change your training, mate, because then you can take everything that we've been talking about.
The back of the head, it's gone. Yeah, it's gone. Yeah,
it's gone. And then we need to get you into a low bar, and then we're sorted, aren't we? We'll get you into a low bar. We'll get some safeties in there. You honestly,
I'm absolutely cooking there, aren't I?
I think if you do a low bar, get some safeties in there. get a belt as well. Whack a belt on. You could get up to a 3-plate squat.
What's 3-plate? What's that? So
140.
Oh, right.
For a set of 5. There's no reason you can't get up to that, honestly. I know you don't think that's possible. I think 100%. I see that happen all the time.
It's good fun. I mean, like, generally, it's good fun now. It's like, because it's like a bitch when you're doing it, but it is it's just that challenge of like, don't push out, don't quit.
Yeah.
You know, it forces you to.
Another thing you'd need as well is smaller plates. So what's your smallest weight increase?
Just they're 1.25s.
Yeah, you could do with some 0.5s in there too. They're only like 13 quid.
I'm not going to become a powerlifter. So let's get
Gyms
low
is
bar, let's
slowly
get the belt,
happening.
let's get the micro plates. It's like, no.
The micro plates is going to happen.
You asked me as well, when was the last time I failed the reps? So like on chins, I've failed reps on those.
Yeah.
I wanted 35 kilos for 2 and I only got it for 1.
Right.
That was just a couple of weeks ago. That annoyed me. That pissed me off. Because I had done that before, way back, I think maybe like 18 months ago, before I had the hand injury and stuff. So I wanted to get back to that. But that's why I'm really pushing that. But like on that topic, can't wait for next week. You're going to show me that that chin with full body weight on, aren't you?
The only issue I've got, right? How am I going to fit the weights between my legs?
No, that is impressive. You can do that, can you? Do you reckon?
I haven't tried. And this is my point, right? Like, as I said, strength is a general adaptation.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
So, like, you know, if I am done.
I mean, in theory, you should be able to, shouldn't you? Because, like, no, but I'm just saying, because, like,
what you putting the pressure?
No,
on
I'm just saying, because obviously you deadlift from the floor. So how many times your body weight is that?
About 2.5, probably. Yeah.
So obviously, it's a different movement, but like you said, the strength is general. Like that is impressive as hell if you can
chin up my body weight.
Yeah.
Is that a good standard? Is it body weight chin?
I don't know, but like you look at any of the freak calisthenics guys, some of those, I mean, they've got hideous amounts of weight,
right,
and can do it. So I mean, if you could do that,
And you want me to do a dip?
I'll be
as
impressed.
Well?
If you can do a dip, shoulders below elbows with your body weight, that
Hey, James.
Your boy will be very impressed.
James, we know this isn't happening, yeah?
No, it's not.
Hey, this isn't happening.
The pec tears and you're not.
Yeah. Do you know how disappointed I would be if... do you know how I tore my pec? Yeah, I decided to max out on dips from 1RM. This is why I wouldn't arm wrestle. I do not care what situation I'm in, what context there is, who it is. I am not arm wrestling.
So here's a question then for you, just a genuine question, because I had this with a client last night, actually. Which do you think would cross over more, and do you think they'll cross over more? Would driving your bench press up help your dip, so obviously a loaded dip, more, or would a loaded dip help your bench press more, or would they just not correlate at all?
It's hard to say, mate. Yeah. It's hard to say. In all honesty, like, can I honestly say that my dips have positively affected my bench press? How would I know that?
Yeah.
How would I know
I suppose
that?
only if you did a controlled study where you stopped doing the one, isn't it, and put all the time in on the other.
But then there's so much other stuff that goes into that too. It's like, is my nutrition being controlled? It's like, what's my stress like?
Yeah.
There's so much. You can never get certainty, of course, over these things, but I couldn't tell you.
No, because there was a guy online, I think I've sent you his content before, and he talks about free gains on an exercise.
Oh, yeah, the free gains guy.
I think
I
he stood you
remember
up a
him.
bit before, but he would say, like, don't do this because you do this and you'll get the free gains. And, like, so I'd just be interested.
It's amazing how confident these people are when they're delivering the message too. It's like they put in this stamp of authority on their claim,
Thing is, when someone can do like full planche, it is like, you're like, well, he's a freaking strong beast. So.
Yeah. What is it? A full planche? What's that?
You know what planche is? Planche is basically where you're getting into like a push-up position like that, and your body is up off the floor.
Is that a skill thing though? More
there's
than
obviously
strength?
a skill component, but there's a freaking ton of strength to it as well.
Yeah.
Or like single arm chins.
Has he got skinny legs though?
No.
He
got
hasn't.
quads.
Has he got quads?
Yeah.
Because that's a component too. If you've got skinny legs.
If you've got, like, I mean, if you want to become better at upper body calisthenics, don't train your lower body. It is because obviously
Become bottom heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mate, should we leave that one there? Do
Yeah.
you want to do another one?
No,
That's all good, yeah? Jim's like, get me out of here. But enough now. Right, let's call that one there.